I have been truly trying to communicate with friends, people that I know on the left. And it's virtually impossible because you bring up a simple fact and they mock you, they call you stupid, they say that you're a liar, but they never come back with their own facts. When they get something wrong, even after admitting that they will apologize, if so, that they pronounce this publicly, they never do. They just continue on with their next inane theory. It goes from Charlie Kirk's assassin, murderer, being a groyper, to it being Israel. Because it's not about the apology, it's about dealing with somebody with some level of integrity that you can talk to, who can admit when they were wrong. And I know that this is a challenge for many of our population, but it still should happen when it's right there in front of their eyes. But instead, what they do is they turn and call you a Nazi fanatic. They call Stephen Miller, a Jew, a Nazi. And when you bring up the fact that he's a Jew, they say, well, haven't you ever heard of self-loathing? Show me the evidence of what Stephen Miller has done that's Nazi-like. He is enforcing the law. Stephen Miller has not ordered anybody killed. He hasn't ordered people sent to the gulags. And if you disagree with them, then you are a fascist acolyte, cheering on Drumpf, as they call him. But the problem is that it's everybody. Either they block you, they unfriend you, they confess via projection, calling you rude. For example, one of these people called me a snowflake for complaining about the fact that they called Trump both racist and racist with a meme. And I said, I don't think that's appropriate because there's no evidence of it. And they call you a snowflake. Or the same thing when you post something about what's going on with Democrats and the violence that they're committing. And then they call you rude when you tell them, please don't go ad hominem. If you have something, evidence that I'm mistaken, please feel free to present it, but don't go ad hominem. And then they call you rude and unfriend you. I'm sorry, there's not much more that I can do. I engage with this, with debate, with as much good faith as I can muster. I'm not perfect. I'm not Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk really saw the other person as somebody that could be changed. That could be, if he was convincing enough, they might be able to change their minds. But they're so ensconced in their echo chamber that I'm 0 for about 15 in terms of dealing with these people. I really, truly, when I'm debating, it's not for the person. It's for everybody else that might be reading it. I recognize that I'm unlikely to change the individual's mind, but I've not seen anybody in the middle just say, you know what, you're right, or he brings up a valid point. I haven't seen that. I've seen two sides. One side that is definitely within an echo chamber, that to admit that you're wrong is a sin that is punishable by banishment from the leftist medium. And they don't want this. They don't want to deal with reality. They just attack you. When I ask, for example, whether or not what Jay Jones said, that he dreams of murdering the children of his political opponent as well as the dad and seeing them die in the mother's arms so that people might change their opinion because it's only this way that they do. And I ask the person whether or not it's disqualifying. He claims that I'm straw manning him. All I'm doing is asking whether or not it's disqualifying. I'm presenting evidence of what was stated, and I get accused of straw manning. It's stupidity. The people don't even know what the term means. And, we all make mistakes, but I guess my point is that I'm really at a loss because I don't see a way out of this if we don't use communication. The whole purpose of the First Amendment is that we can settle our differences peacefully on the intellectual playing field. And when somebody's enormously successful at it, like Charlie Kirk was, they murder him. They assassinate him in cold blood. And then these leftist ghouls cheer it on. They celebrate or they excuse it as if there could possibly be any excuse. You don't murder people who disagree with you. But there's always the but. There is no but. What happened was absolutely horrific, but they excuse it. And the fact that Jay Jones could get any percentage of the vote beyond 0.4%, his immediate family members who are going to excuse it because there's going to be a payday for them, is inexcusable. that they went off on Donald Trump for hyperbolic locker room content, and they tried to make it absolutely disqualifying what he said when he was just talking in generalities about how women treat you very, very differently if you're a celebrity. And Jay Jones, on the other hand, is excused and does not lose a single Democrat removing their endorsement of him after what he said, after he says that there should be more police shot, something to that degree. I am at an utter loss, and I need your guys' help. I really do wonder, and I know that I've sounded off on this a few times, but it's just snowballed downhill, and that snowball has grown and grown and grown, and now it's come and wiped out the town that I called hope of bridging the communication gap. Because again, I said this a moment ago, the First Amendment is what we use so that we don't go and commit violent acts against each other. It's how we negotiate with each other. And the fact that one side has basically bifurcated America in such a way that if you're on the polar opposite side, then there's almost no talking to you. And when you say anything convincing, then they get violent, then they get reductive, then they accuse you of the acts that they are committing, and they have no integrity to admit when they were proven to be wrong, when they've moved on from Groyper to Israel being the assassin. They can't even admit that they were wrong about the Groyper. They can't publicly admit it because it's tied up in the ego rather than what is actually factually true. So how do we communicate with these people? I'm at a loss. And this is not something that I should be saying. Maybe I should be telling everybody how we should be good, decent people and try to communicate based on facts and give the other person the benefit of the doubt. But when we're constantly doing that and they never do, okay, I recognize that we're never going to convince them. But how many other people are we reaching that might side with us, which is the only purpose in these communications, is what I find. It's not to dunk on the other person. It's to communicate and convince those in the middle to join the side of reason and decency, and not those who cannot excoriate a man for wishing death on his political opponent, his children, and police. But I believe at this point that the chasm has gotten so large and the penalty from jumping from one side to the other so extreme that we are going to be headed into civil war. I mean, what would have happened just the other day if the assassin in Washington, D.C. was able to kill the Supreme Court justices with all those bombs that he had? That just happened. The leftist violence just increases when they're looking for evidence to use against ICE officers in Portland so that they can charge them while they let Antifa do their dirty work. That is an insurrection against the federal law that we, as an elected body, have imposed. They don't want the law to apply to them. I am at a loss, so let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments section. Otherwise, it's civil war, baby, and that's nowhere that we want to go. Peace.